Call to order, Muskogee Creek National Council PreAgenda, March 24th, 2020 by teleconference. Time is 6 p.m. At this time, we'll do the invocation. I'd like to ask Representative Travis Scott.
Let us pray. Father in heaven, we thank you, Lord, for this day, Lord. And Father, we just ask you to continue to bless us and our nation, Father, and give our leadership direction, Lord. And we just pray that you keep all of our citizens healthy, Father, at this time of need, Lord. And just continue to give us the strength and guidance to be of sound mind and make good decisions, Father. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Representative Scott. Roll call, National Council Secretary Christy Jackson.
Mary Crawford.
Present.
Joyce Deere. Joyce Deere. Patrick Freeman.
Here.
Joseph Hicks.
Here.
Robert Huck.
Present.
James Jennings.
Here.
Adam Jones.
Here.
William Lowe.
Here.
Anna Marshall. Anna Marshall.
Here.
Charles McHenry.
Here.
Thomasina Hoa Osborne.
Present.
Darrell Proctor.
Here.
Mike Randolph.
Present.
Travis Scott.
Here.
Lucian Tiger.
Present.
Speaker Randall Hicks.
Present.
Speaker, you have 16 present, 0 absent.
16 present, 0 absent, constitutes a quorum. All business conducted will be official. Agenda review. Health, Education, and Welfare, Chairman Lucian Tiger III.
Thank you, Speaker. We have no additions.
Thank you, Chairman Tiger. Land, Natural Resources, and Cultural Preservation, Chairman Mark Randolph.
Speaker, we have no changes or additions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Randolph. Business, Finance, and Justice, Chairman William Lowe.
No, Speaker, no additions.
Thank you, Chairman Lowe. Next item on the agenda is other business, nomination interview, Jeremy T. Pittman, District Tribal Judge. Before we move any further, I'd like to ask if anyone has any questions or comments after Pittman shares his information. Please state your name and be recognized before you ask or make your comment. Mr. Pittman.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How's the council doing?
Council doing great. Will you tell us about yourself and share with us any information you feel is vital to your nomination and why you feel you are the best candidate for this position?
Yes, I have graduated from law school back in 2000. I've been a practicing attorney dealing with all types of legal issues since that time. I believe I was made a part of the Creek Nation Bar Association in 2006, and I've practiced in that court system since that time. I've had many court appointments, and as I'm sure the council is well aware, I was appointed as a district judge in December of 2018. Through that last year of the 4-year term, which was a partial term, I had many different types of cases, which I feel like I dealt with by applying both the law based on the evidence presented. I feel like I have the temperament as well as the ability to basically be a very good judge and to not let emotion or political pressure, so to speak, come into play, because in my opinion, a judge is supposed to be the great equalizer, and he is supposed to make sure that, or she, is supposed to make sure that the Constitution is protected, of the nation as well as the rights of all citizens, and that based on what evidence is presented, the applicable law should be applied and a decision which is equal regardless of who's on one side or the other should be submitted. And I believe I'm an individual that can do that and do that in a very good manner.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'll open it up to questions or comments.
Speaker, Travis Scott.
Representative Scott, go ahead.
Is Mr. Wiley on the line?
Yes, I am, Mr. Scott.
I would like to give Mr. Wiley some time to iterate some things that's vital to what the council needs to be aware of, if that's okay with Mr. Wiley.
Yes, that's fine with me.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Speaker and National Council. I'm in my office across the street right now talking to you. I wanted to say a few things about Jeremy Pittman's nomination because I wanted to try to clear up a couple of things as best I can and tell you why I think he was a good judge when he served. I had experience with him in 4 different cases. I found that Jeremy exercised common sense, and which is a quality that is you got to have in a judge. He was efficient. He does not sit on his rulings. He gave a ruling in an election case that we had, and it was important that that case was decided quickly so the election did not carry over into this year. And he did that, and he was efficient. He didn't sit on his cases and not issue rulings for weeks at a time. That's an important characteristic of a judge. And finally, I think Jeremy Pittman has courage. It's hard to rule against the nation, especially when you're an Indian tribe. I've been a judge for probably, since 95 anyway, 25 years in various tribes in Oklahoma, probably 9 or 10 of the different tribes. And, you know, one of the surest ways to be removed from office as a judge, is to rule against the nation or the tribe in a particular matter. And that doesn't mean the judge is wrong. That means he has courage. And I don't necessarily agree with his ruling in this Bruner case, which I understand has been a problem for some people, but I think that he had a basis for doing what he did. I think it took courage to do what he did. Our office certainly is not without fault in that case. We made a lot of mistakes, and at some point I'm going to address those before the National Council, but tonight is not the time. I just want you to know that he based that ruling on the evidence and the argument that was before him, and I have to say that I believe he had a basis for doing what he did. So with those things in mind, I realize some of you were against Jeremy Pittman last time, and I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. If anyone's made up their mind already, you know, that's fine. I know, I've been a lawyer long enough to know people who've made up their minds aren't easily swayed in the other direction, and I'm not even going to try. But I would hope that some of you would have an open mind about this process tonight regarding Jeremy Pittman. You know, we want an open-minded judge who displays those characteristics I mentioned, and to get an open-minded judge, I think we're going to have people selecting that judge who also have open minds. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, please do so. I'll be happy to address them as best I can, but I wholeheartedly support Jeremy Pittman's nomination for judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wiley. Any other questions or comments?
Speaker, this is Travis Scott again.
Go ahead, Mr. Scott.
I don't know if Mr. Wiley wants to disclose or if he's going to make it appropriate, do this in appropriate form, but I was curious as to the amount of funds we dispersed on that one particular case.
Well, I can go ahead and disclose that now to the council. Essentially, this is an executive session, but one of the many mistakes we made was to not use the in-house prosecutors in that Bruner case.
Mr. Wiley.
We went out and hired, yes.
This is not an executive session.
Okay, well then, I I probably better not discuss it.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions or comments for Mr. Pittman?
Speaker, I'd just like to make a comment, this is Travis Scott.
Yes, sir, Representative Scott.
Thank you, sir. I want the council to understand that how hard it is to find qualified individuals for these positions, because we see the struggles that we had in years prior to try to fill these 3 positions. And I just feel like that, you know, we're going to do our citizens due justice if we confirm Mr. Pittman. The other letter that was sent to us from the Supreme Court on the legislation that did not have a motion last night, in our opinion, my opinion, it gave us as the council some authority that we really shouldn't have had, because, you know, we need to keep in mind the separation of powers at where we are in this stance. So I just wanted to make that comment, and I appreciate everybody's consideration. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Chief David Hill.
Thank you, Speaker. As mentioned before, I went through all the resumes even for Attorney General, and had fun with him and went through and tried to see who I can place on a judge. But Mr. Pittman also, you know, he's been in that role, in that position before, and I feel like he done a good job, and that's the reason why I resubmitted his name. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Hill. Any other? Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, this concludes the order of business. Next item on the agenda is announcements. The only announcement I have is the regular session will follow pre-agenda immediately. Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Representative Huff made a motion to adjourn. Have a second?
Second.
Second, who? Give me a name. Who's second? Willow? Representative Lowe made the second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign.
Aye. Aye.
Hearing none, motion carries. Meeting's adjourned at 6:13.